Jump board it comes from Pilates. However, it incorporates plyometric work in there, cardiovascular work, like you had mentioned. And the way that I teach jump board is a HIIT style class.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Catalyst for Change podcast, where your professional health and fitness team tell you how you can do what you do better and take care of yourself a little bit better and educated, be a little bit more informed. And today we have a regular member of your team, Nicole Coglianese, who owns Citra Fitness and Movement. My name is Jim Adams. I am the owner of Catalyst Personal Training in University City, and Nicole's studio is down off of Locust?
Yeah, Jefferson and Locust.
Jefferson and Locust. So, and today we're going to be talking about jump board. What is jump board? Well, jump board is awesome, is what jump board is. It combines the elements of Pilates without the joint impact. It combines the elements of Pilates and a little cardio, getting your heart rate up. So, Nicole, you want to share with the listeners about jump board and the benefits?
Yeah, so I feel like I talk to you guys always about Pilates, and you probably have never seen, or at least in my podcast, seen an actual reformer. So this is the Pilates reformer.
AKA the torture device.
What did you say?
I said AKA the torture device.
Yes. It was built from a hospital bed, so not an actual torture device, but not the most pleasant place in the world. I do have the jump board set up on here. So traditionally you'd have a foot bar where the jump board is at today. But jump board it comes from Pilates. However, it incorporates plyometric work in there, cardiovascular work, like you had mentioned. And the way that I teach jump board is a HIIT style class. So we jump for about 1 to 2 minutes, and there's a bunch of different variations and ways that you can jump on this actual machine. Don't worry, I'll show you one of them. And then I switch to resistance work, so more traditional Pilates work, and then we go right back to jumping. So you bounce back and forth. HIIT style training, as I'm sure you know, and most of your listeners know, is a great way to torch calories. It's also a really, I think, fun way to incorporate cardio in your workouts if you don't particularly like cardio, like this girl right here. So you go back and forth between working basically to your maximum in terms of cardiovascular work, and then dropping your heart rate down, and then going back and forth. So not only does that work your cardiovascular system, but plyometric work, and for anyone who's not sure what plyometric work basically is, explosive movements, explosive compound movements. So anything like jumping, some people think of sprinting as plyometric work. I would classify that more as cardio, except for when you take off. That movement, that jump that you take off when you sprint, that would be something that's plyometric work. Box jumps, squat jumps, that sort of thing. So plyometric work, or plyometric movements, really train the fast twitch muscles, and those are your longest and typically strongest muscle fibers as well. So when we bounce back and forth from doing something like jumping, plyometric work, and then we switch and do resistance work, we're going from working the fast twitch muscles and switching to working the slow twitch muscles, which you typically work in Pilates. Weight training trains those type of muscle fibers as well. So you go from working something that's very long, lean, and strong to your smaller muscle fibers as well. So that's what jump board does. Beyond that, it's the only form of plyometric work that I know of that doesn't put unnecessary stress on your joints. It puts healthy stress on your joints and also your bones in general. So typically, I would say after the age of 12, Jumping up and down on the ground, especially concrete or anything like that if you live in a city, not the greatest thing for your joints. In fact, it can sometimes hurt. So with jump board, instead of jumping against, or in some ways with gravity, we're actually jumping against the resistance of the springs. So your joints are gonna build synovial fluid. We're also gonna build all the stabilizing muscles and tendons, ligaments around your joint. And also your bones as well are gonna get that healthy stress of having impact, but low impact against them.
Yeah, and I like that because when you talk about plyos, it's all about that stretch reflex.
Yeah.
And as we get older, that's where you produce the power. Like you said, sprinting, jumping, swinging.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing hockey, baseball, golf, any tennis, any of those things, all of that is plyometric, and it the stretch reflex is what produces power, and that's the first thing that you lose as you get older. So if you're thinking of something like when you slip on the ice, it's that power and that stretch reflex that helps you catch your balance so that you don't fall. So that's why it's so important for, as you get older, to maintain that kind of plyometric health so that you don't wind up falling and winding up with a knee injury, hip injury, low back injury, or whatever.
Exactly. And not only does it develop power, but it also develops speed as well. So
Mhm.
that goes hand in hand with what you were just saying. You might have the strength to catch yourself, but if you don't have that speed, you're still going to fall on your face.
Exactly.
And
Right.
we're
And
far too
then
pretty for that, Jim.
what's that?
I said we're far too pretty for that. Maybe falling on
Well,
this.
maybe you are. Maybe you are. I've fallen one or two times. But the other thing too is the cardio. Everybody loves cardio except you and me.
Yeah.
But for those people out there that love cardio, for me, it's a necessary evil, right? It's a
Yeah.
means to an end, which for most people, some people may be that as well. But anyway, what I was trying to say is that when I did the jump board class, you said it was going to be cardio. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. This is going to be cardio, but it was. My heart rate got up. I worked up a sweat, and it actually kind of surprised me how much cardio it was. So, and it's a different form of cardio. It's a form of cardio that I didn't feel like beat up my body too much. So I still got my HIIT and my cardio benefits, but without all of the banging on my joints and muscles.
Yeah. It's a pretty interesting little contraption that I get to work with here.
Okay. So for those of you who are watching on video, you want to walk through some demos on the jump board?
Yeah. So one of my favorite ways to jump on the jump board is on my side. So when I come down, I'm going to lay down onto my right side, and I'm going to be working with my left leg. However, I'm going to show you how being on this machine and incorporating some of the Pilates theories in terms of staying in neutral pelvis and neutral spine are actually going to work the right side of my body as well. So if for some reason you're not able to see me when I lay down, just give me a heads up and I'll move the camera. But I'll lay down here onto my right side. My left foot comes onto the jump board. I'm going to extend out. And then from here, you might be able to see that my right oblique lifts up. So if I let my pelvis just sort of tilt down and this left hip come in towards my left lower rib, that's going to collapse here with my oblique, and I'm not going to get any work through my right side. So if I can stay in that neutral pelvis, essentially the left side of my pelvis is stacked on top of the right. I'm going to get a little bit of work here for my right oblique. I'm also going to flex my right foot and press down slightly with my right leg into the carriage. And this thing that I'm laying on is called the carriage. And that's also going to engage my right outer hip. So when I start to jump here with my left, all that time in the air that I have is actually engaging through the side of my left hip, and I have to use all of these muscles on the left side of my body to hold my leg in place. So yes, I'm jumping with my left leg. For sure my glute is getting some work in there, but I'm also stabilizing with my knee joint, so that's getting some work. And I'm articulating with my foot as well. So when I jump, I point my toes, I land with the ball of my foot, and then roll my heel down. So I'm also strengthening my foot here. Is there anything better than jump board, Jim? I really don't think so.
Well, you know, the thing I like about jump board and what you're saying, like the thing you were mentioning about your hip, like getting your hip level was surprisingly difficult for me. Yeah. You know, that little movement, I was surprised at how hard that was for me. And it just, for me, highlighted a weakness in my core and my ability to stabilize my pelvis during single leg movements. And when you think about it, whenever you walking is a single leg movement, running is a single leg movement, going up and down stairs is a single leg movement. So if you're having problems stabilizing your pelvis, using your core or in pelvic muscles to stabilize your core doing single leg movements, that's literally all day, you know? Yeah. So I think it's really important. And then you get that plyometric benefit throughout that whole left side chain as well. Like you said, the stabilizing against the force, which I really like. But that's the thing I like about it the most, is that it strengthens those single leg muscles and stabilizers, you know, in a unique way, because most people, you know, will do plyometrics or anything like that against gravity. And this is a little bit less than gravity. So it gives you a chance to kind of work your way up, so to speak, to let those muscles get a little bit stronger. Because what do you do? Like, what do you do if you find somebody who has a hard time, like getting that gap on their side of their obliques or stabilizing their pelvis?
It's something I verbally tell people, but I'll also stop them and actually show them using my body, because it's a hard thing for people to grasp if they're not in the fitness world, or if they don't have any body awareness to even think that, you know, if they're laying down, that they're not completely laying flat on their body. Another thing that I'll do is actually stand next to them and let them know that we're trying to train the core, as we had talked about before, in neutrality, essentially. So you wouldn't walk around in the world, I hope not, like this. So I'm basically extending here through my right oblique, collapsing through my left one. And that's kind of what they're doing when they're laying on their side. So usually when I explain that and then I stand up straight and they'll see my oblique cinch in, usually they pick up on that.
Okay, got it. All right. And then what are some other aspects of, like, because you mentioned like Pilates, what are some other, I don't even know how to say this, Pilates-ish things about jump board?
Pilates things about jump board. It works a lot of the same muscles. So you're, like we had talked about, the smaller muscles and tendons, ligaments that support your joints. And it does it in a way that doesn't put a lot of impact on the joints. So it's safe for people that have had knee surgeries, hip surgeries. It's actually really great for people that have had those, as long as they're clear to exercise, because it does strengthen the bones and also the joints in a way that's not going to hurt them for their rehabilitation. So it's great for that. The other Pilates-esque parts of it, it trains your core in a way that I don't think most people realize. I'm going to show you one other position. I'm going to add on the springs. I'm going to add on a little bit of resistance, because like you had mentioned before, I was only working with one leg. Now I'm going to work with two. So I'll lay down on my back now. And you might be able to see this, you might not, but I also come here into a neutral spine. So I've got a little bit of space underneath my low back. Essentially, I'm allowing my spine to stay in its natural position, not pressing down belly button to spine. Instead, I want to keep my pelvis stable. And when I think about that, I've got my tailbone and pubic bone facing straight towards the jump board. Natural arch in my low back, my rib cage is broad, and my shoulders are broad on the carriage as well. So when I start to jump here, and I'm in the air, my abdominal muscles have to turn on. Also, I don't know if you and I talked about it, but I talk about footwork all the time. I absolutely love footwork. This also works the feet. So I'm stretching, strengthening, and stimulating all parts of the bottom of my foot here.
Mm-hmm.
When I land with the balls of my feet, drop my heels. So I get a little bit of extension here with my Achilles tendons or the back of my
Mm-hmm.
ankles, and also my calves, so I get that stretch. I also stretch the bottom of my feet, and when I take off, I go into point, strengthening the front of my ankles.
Yeah. So, and that's really important when it comes to things like preventing plantar fasciitis and things like that, because I'm a big proponent, because footwork, because everybody knows those hideous Vibram shoes, those toe shoes that just look like frog feet. But anyway, the concept, I really enjoy the concept because you think you have all of these little tiny intrinsic muscles and tendons in your feet that you're supposed to use to walk with, but not only walk with, but also kind of understand. It gives your brain feedback on where you are in space and your
Absolutely.
balance and all of those things, what we call in the fitness industry proprioception. But it's just basically aware of where your body is in space and how to move it in space. And a lot of that is generated by the feet, correct?
Absolutely. They're getting it when you're walking upright in the world, they're the thing that's getting feedback. So,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of whenever you can do some barefoot or balance work. And what you mentioned too, like when you said, like if you're doing rehab work with your knees or whatever it might be, for me, it's, when I started Pilates, I have a history of weightlifting, and I do jujitsu and I play hockey. So I've been doing like sports training, all of those things. But the thing that is different for me about Pilates and why I like it, one, like you said, I never slow down. I'm always worried about moving the weight and moving fast, right? So when you do that, sometimes the details and the nuances get lost in that. So Pilates gives me an opportunity to kind of slow down and focus on keeping my pelvis stable, and like you said, the footwork and those intrinsic muscles in the feet, stabilizing the joints, especially when you're doing the jump board, because it's a little bit lower load on the plyometric end. So then I can take the time, and also your instruction and your cueing, your coaching and your cueing help me to kind of focus in on those little nuance things that are really, really important. They're kind of foundational pieces to movement. And it's one of those things, as you get older, if you don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing. So
For
you
sure.
have to stay on top of it. And it's part of what I call your movement maintenance as you get older. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think neurologically, too, doing work like Pilates, where you do have somebody telling you exactly how they would like for you to move, you have to take the time to process that, understand it, and then execute it. So I
Mm-hmm.
am a big fan of awareness-based movement in general, and finding teachers that speak to how I want to move my body, but also there can be great teachers out there that for some reason I just don't hear them or hear
Mm-hmm.
them properly. So when you find a good teacher who can help you to slow down, really think about how you're moving and how to properly execute that movement, but also to have somebody who can tell you the little tiny things to move, whether that is a bone, a muscle, just where you're at in space, which goes hand in hand with the proprioceptive system, really helps as well. It may shorten your range of motion, it may make things more difficult, but in the
Mm-hmm.
long run, you're going to be able to do the things in life, in my opinion, that really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Can I train somebody to put their body into a pretzel? Yeah. Is that really going to matter unless they're going skiing or something like that and they want to
Mm-hmm.
prevent an accident or an injury? No. But being able to do this motion for the rest of your life, to be able to get something off of a shelf as you get older,
Mm-hmm.
those are the things to me that really that matter and they're
Yeah.
functional in life.
And navigate your way around the kitchen or down a set of stairs when you have small children or dogs going about without losing your balance and eating it. I think that's really important too. Um,
Absolutely.
but shoot, I forgot what I was. Like I was saying, like for me, the biggest eye opening, and even on the jump board, is that, like I said, been doing strength training and cardio, traditional cardio for a long time, longer than I care to mention. But um, what I didn't realize until I started Pilates was one, when I lay down, my core just goes limp. My pelvis is just totally unsupported, which I did not realize until you pointed that out, like stabilizing that pelvis on your side, or when you're laying on your back, keeping that neutral low back curve in your lumbar spine. All of those things require core muscles, which I didn't realize. And the other thing was how unbalanced I was from my right leg to my left leg. My
Yeah.
left leg was slacking, you know. It was getting unemployment benefits during COVID because it was just not working. And then my right leg was doing all the work. So it helped me. And if that continues, that is the recipe for a injury down the line. So
For
I was
sure.
happy. I was happy that I was able to catch that and start correcting that. So is that something you see a lot when you're doing the jump board or doing Pilates?
Absolutely. One of the fun things about jump board and Pilates in general is I do a lot of symmetrical movements. And those are typically what I'll use to kind of see an imbalance in someone. So one of the beautiful things about these machines is they're relatively symmetrical. And as we were talking about with the proprioceptive system, you've got shoulder pads here, and typically this would be a bar that we put our feet onto. So when someone lays down onto their back like I was before, and we do something symmetrical like footwork to begin with class, which I typically start classes off with footwork, um, it's really a diagnostic tool, not only for the person that's doing it, but for me as well. So I can see if one shoulder is kind of sinking down as they begin to lengthen their legs, or if they're leading with one side, if one leg doesn't extend as much as the other one. So we also correct movements symmetrically as well. So I mentioned to people, like, notice if you're doing this. It all starts with awareness to be able to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, because their bodies have been doing the same repetitive motion for a long time, and for some reason something's not firing in their brain to say, oh, this can be different, then I have the opportunity to actually tell them and show them. And footwork also gives me a chance too. When people are laying on their back, they can see me, they can kind of see what I'm doing. I can actually help them, press a leg down or press both legs down together so that they can start to feel what it's like to have their legs fully extend in a movement like footwork. But as you mentioned too, we also do single leg or single sided movements as well. So that's where I can start to really see what's going on too. Say we start with, I typically start with the left side. I don't know if you've noticed that in classes, but most people
My
are
left leg
right-handed,
does.
so sorry. Sorry, but that's why I do it, because most people are right-handed. So I want to see what their left side is going to show me. And then I'll switch over to the right side. And so that way I can kind of see the difference between both sides. And almost everyone, I mean, I'd say 98% of the people that I see have some sort of imbalance. And we work towards getting to a place where there is symmetrical movements and balance. So I don't particularly look at somebody and say, well, your left side is a little bit, for lack of a better word, weaker than your right side. I'm still going to train the right side because I don't want that to have to suffer because the left side is a little bit weaker. But I do want to get people into a place where they are balanced and their movements are symmetrical, because as you guys had talked about in your previous podcast, that right there can lead to pain, especially surrounding the muscles around your pelvis. If you've ever, or anyone who's listening has ever slipped their SI joint, it's horrendously painful.
Mm-hmm.
And then
stops you in your tracks.
What was that?
It stops you in your tracks.
Absolutely. And it goes to the knee joint and it goes to the ankle. So that type of injury, when it is one-sided, can radiate all the way down to the joints that come after it, in terms of, say that was the source joint, was the pelvis. Then it's going to go into the knee, into the ankle, and then probably up to their shoulder as well.
Yeah, I agree. Well, all along that chain, because no joint on your body moves in isolation. It's all part of a chain of movements. And so you have to pay attention to the entire chain, not just one joint, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then when it comes to Pilates, I know for me, and I've said it many times that I never saw myself taking Pilates. Now I kind of like it. I'm going to edit that part out. But anyway, I kind of like it. But I would always be grateful, forever grateful to Blake Kirtland. I'm giving you a shout out, Blake.
He's the
And
best.
he is, and he's my buddy from jujitsu, and he is the one that talked me into going because he said it will improve your jujitsu. And in fact, it does. And as I think about that, the reason it does is that it makes my core stronger. So it's easier for me to stabilize my spine, stabilize my pelvis while I'm moving. And so for me, it's almost like it creates a solid base that makes it easier for me to move my limbs, my legs, my arms, my head, whatever it may be, because I have that solid core that can stabilize everything, that allows everything to move around it. So it's improved my movement. And that's something that I never thought I would say, but it's been proven true to me over and over again. So I can't
Yep.
I can't I can't endorse it enough. Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Well, this has been great as usual, Nicole. I hope people try out your jump board because I definitely jump board class. I definitely recommend it. So I always enjoy hearing what you have cross promotion style because what do you call it? Barnum and Bailey when it comes to cross promotion. But tell people where can they get in contact with you, reach out to you, sign up for jump board. What else you got going on? Because I know you have a ton going on.
Yes. Well, you can definitely check out classes and my schedule at Citra, CITRA, fitness.com. You can also check me out on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Aerial Yoga _STL. And then Citra's Instagram handle is Citra _fitness _ the word and _ movement. One's a mouthful. You can also check us out on Facebook. That's at Citra Fitness. In terms of what I've got going on, Full Moon Flow is a very fun event that I put on every full moon. This month it's going to be, or I should say next month technically, it's going to be on October 18th. It's going to be our last one on the rooftop at Jefferson Underground before we move it inside. Wellbeing also sponsors that, so they'll be there with CBD seltzers. Fit Flavors will be there as well with some snacks. I know,
Okay.
right? Everybody
Yeah.
loves snacks.
Yeah. Well, and I know Jillian, the lady who owns Fit Flavor. She's awesome.
Yes, she's
Okay.
great. Chef Lex actually comes to the events, but yeah, Chef
Okay.
Jillian is wonderful too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then you can check all those links will be in the show notes. Go to Catalyst STL /podcast, and all the links to contact Nicole will be right there, and kind of sign up for the Full Moon Flow, last one before they go inside. And what is this moon? I know the last moon was Libra. What is this one?
So, well, it was technically Pisces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So whenever you have a full moon, it's on the opposite side of the astrological chart to where you're
Okay.
at. So when your sun is in Libra, then the moon is in Pisces.
Okay. So what is this October one?
So the next one is going to be in Aries.
Oh,
And Aries
snap.
is it's a fiery little sign. So
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And then you can check me out at catalyststl.com for the next couple of weeks. We have a special where you get 7 days free. So come on in, you get 2 personal training sessions, a boot camp class, and a Peloton session. And so you can sign up for 7 days for free. Come in and check us out. We're different from other gyms. So come
I
see
might have to
why.
try that, Jim. That sounds great.
Well, absolutely. Sign up for sure. I love to get you in there and get some payback. So, all right. Until next time, we hope you guys are well.
See ya.
Bye.